Asian leaders say it's their part of the globe that will lead the world out of recession. 21 nations are participating in this year's Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. And as part of that, Chinese leader Hu Jintao has put forward a 4-point proposal to boost economic growth and revive the world economy. And for the details, I'm now joined live by Dmitry Medvedenko in Singapore. Hello there, Dmitry. So China is in the spotlight today. So could you tell us more about Hu's proposal?
Absolutely right. China is in the center of attention. Following the economic crisis, China's economic power was truly revealed. It is evident that its economy will grow more than 8% by the end of this year. And if you look at the list of the top 3 banks in the world, they're all Chinese banks. Well, a lot of pressure on China right now to liberalize its currency, to unpeg it from the dollar. Its yuan is pegged to the weakening dollar, which is giving it a lot of advantage on the global market as its exports are becoming relatively cheap. So Timothy Geithner yesterday in his speech said world currencies should be formed on market principles. Hu Jintao, the Chinese leader, had a 20-minute address to APEC member economies, and he never mentioned the yuan. However, he did give a hint as to what China expects in return should it be asked to liberalize its currency. He wants trade and investment liberalization, of course, because Chinese goods are sometimes facing restrictions, and Chinese its investment potential is very high right now. It's also facing restrictions from a number of countries. He wants tighter financial control and is ready to help on that. And he's pushing forward innovative ideas. He also shared some of the economic measures that China went through to come out of the crisis. As you can see, economic data, such as GDP forecast growth, is showing that it's been quite successful. They've been stimulating local demand, they've been making credits more available, and they've been opening up the economy. One of the key phrases is that China cannot survive in an isolated economy, and the world cannot survive without China. Well, some of the other key addresses today were from the presidents of South Korea and Indonesia, and all of the leaders have so far mentioned that it's good that the worst of the crisis is probably over, but it's too early to relax. And even in Singapore, the country which hosts the APEC summit this year, and the country which has a very high standard of living, the crisis is quite evident. There are signs that are easily spotted. Let's watch this report from my colleague Anissa Nawi.
Singapore is no stranger to the economic crisis, a major global financial center that was hit hard and is still recovering. Flying into its airport, one is greeted with an obvious bruise the crisis has left not only on Singapore, but on global trade, a cluster of empty cargo ships with nowhere to go.
You had a huge drop-off in world trade, so it's sort of into the region of 20% drop.
Last year, it cost $50,000 to charter a tanker. Now the price is just over $5,000. But despite the great deal, there's just not enough demand. Usually this time of year leading up to the Christmas holiday, boats like these are busy bustling back and forth from Asia to Europe and the U.S., packed with consumer goods. But in the aftermath of the global financial crisis, that is far from the case. People are buying less, therefore there's no cargo and no destination. Instead, a slew of so-called ghost ships just east of Singapore waiting idly for business to pick up. Ang Main has taxied in these waters for years. He tells us until recently there were almost no idle vessels on the horizon. Today you can barely see the horizon.
You have what are called the outer ports limits anchorages, which are not governed by any particular country. And estimates put another around 200 vessels roughly in those anchorages. And a lot of those are staying there for significant periods of time.
So why Singapore?
A lot of these companies have management in Singapore, so it's easy for them to have access to the ships.
Others claim these neutral seas are reliable backwaters to lay low until the economic storm settles. Out of sight, out of mind, waiting for a cargo to somewhere. Anissa Nawi, RT, Singapore.
Yeah, Dmitry, President Medvedev was speaking about pretty much the same points Hu Jintao mentioned today, and tomorrow the two leaders are meeting, so they seem to have something to talk about.
That's absolutely right. President Dmitry Medvedev is arriving here tomorrow. He will have an address to APEC nations, and he will also have a personal meeting with Hu Jintao. They will probably be talking about innovation, because both leaders mentioned innovation as one of the key priorities in coming out of the crisis and economic development. Also, energy deals are probably going to be discussed, as Russia's Gazprom is mulling a deal to deliver gas to China, and also, of course, the East Siberia Pacific Ocean pipeline will be delivering oil to China in a few years. And, of course, we will be bringing you the latest as it happens.
All right. Dmitry Medvedenko reporting there live from Singapore. Dmitry, many thanks indeed.